5 signs she's lying to you, and you believe her. Your gut is telling you something's off. The story doesn't quite add up. Her explanation has holes you could drive a truck through. But you want to believe her, so you do. Here's the problem. Liars count on that. They count on your desire to trust them, your fear of being that guy who's paranoid and controlling. And while you're giving her the benefit of the doubt, she's counting on you ignoring what's right in front of you. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 5 psychological and behavioral patterns that reveal deception and why you've been trained to ignore them. Sign 1. Her story changes in small but significant ways every time she tells it. Let's start with something that's easy to miss if you're not paying attention. When someone tells the truth, the core facts stay consistent because they're recalling actual events. When someone lies, they're constructing a narrative, and constructed narratives have inconsistencies. These aren't big, obvious contradictions that make it easy to call them out. They're small details that shift, timelines that don't quite match, parts of the story that get added or removed depending on when she's telling it. Pay attention to the timeline first. The first time she tells the story, she got home at 10 p.m. The next time you talk about it, it was 11 p.m. A week later, it's 9:30. And you're sitting there thinking, maybe I misheard, or maybe I'm remembering wrong. But you're not. The inconsistency isn't about bad memory. It's about not being able to keep track of the lie. Truth has a stable timeline because it actually happened. She doesn't need to remember what time she said. She just remembers what time it was. Lies have flexible timelines because she's trying to remember what she told you last time while managing what sounds believable now. Watch for the selective detail pattern too. When she recounts the same event, different details appear or disappear like magic. First telling, I went to Sarah's house. Second telling, Sarah and I met up with Jessica too. Third telling, Jessica was never there. You're confused because you could swear she mentioned Jessica before, but now, suddenly, Jessica wasn't part of the story. One guy told me his girlfriend said she had a work dinner on Friday. When he asked about it Monday, suddenly it was a happy hour that ran late, not a dinner. When her coworker mentioned it later in conversation, it was back to being a dinner. He knew something was off, but couldn't quite put his finger on it. That's the thing. Truth doesn't require editing. Lies get refined based on what questions you ask and what you think you know. Here's another tell, the over-explanation evolution. The first time she tells you the story, it's simple and straightforward. Each time after that, it gets more elaborate. More details, more context, more explanation. She's building defenses against questions she thinks you might ask. When people tell the truth, they don't need to keep adding layers. When people lie, they preemptively defend against holes you might find. And notice what she forgets to mention. Important details don't come up until you specifically ask about them. Oh, I didn't mention Jake was there. Yeah, he showed up later. These aren't minor details. They're information she knew would concern you, so she controlled when and how you found out. That's strategic omission, and it's lying by another name. Marcus experienced this firsthand. His girlfriend told him she was going to her friend Amy's birthday party Saturday night. When he asked about it Sunday, she said Amy's party was actually really low-key, just Amy and a few girls at her apartment. Simple enough. A few days later, Amy posted photos from the party. It was at a club with at least 30 people, men and women everywhere. When Marcus asked about the discrepancy, his girlfriend got angry. "Why are you stalking Amy's Instagram? Don't you trust me?" She made him the problem for noticing her story didn't match reality. That deflection was the confirmation. If she'd been telling the truth, she'd have explained the confusion, not attacked him for noticing. Here's what you need to understand about the psychology. Maintaining a false narrative requires significant mental effort. Liars are juggling the true story they're hiding, the false story they're telling you, and what they've already told you. Truth requires no such juggling. It's simply recalled. That's why inconsistencies appear. She can't track all the variables of a lie the way she could simply remember actual events. So here's what you do. Ask her to repeat the story days later. Don't announce you're testing her, just casually bring up the topic. How was that thing you went to last week? Listen for inconsistencies. If core facts have changed, that's your red flag. Take mental or actual notes when she tells you something significant. Note who, what, where, when. Check those details against future retellings. Ask follow-up questions calmly. Don't interrogate, but do clarify. Wait, you said it was at 8 before. Was it 8 or 9? Watch her reaction. Defensiveness and anger are tells. And trust your instinct when something feels off. If your gut says the story doesn't add up, don't talk yourself out of it just because you want to believe her. Sign 2. She overreacts to simple questions and turns them into attacks on her character. Here's one of the clearest tells that someone's lying. Simple questions get complicated reactions. When someone has nothing to hide, simple questions get straightforward answers. When someone is lying, simple questions become threats that must be deflected, minimized, or turned back on you. You ask something basic. Who were you with last night? Or what time did you get home? These are not interrogations. These are normal relationship questions. But her response is explosive, anger, tears, accusations that you don't trust her. The intensity of her reaction is completely disproportionate to the invasiveness of your question. And that's the tell right there. The reaction is proportional to what she's hiding, not to what you asked. Honest people aren't threatened by basic questions because they have honest answers. Liars are threatened because questions expose the truth. Watch for the Darvo technique: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. You ask about something that doesn't add up. She denies any wrongdoing, attacks you for asking, and makes herself the victim of your accusations. One guy told me he asked why his girlfriend deleted text messages with a male coworker. She didn't answer the question. Instead, she started crying and said he was being controlling and abusive for questioning her. Suddenly, he was comforting her about his own concern. By making herself the victim, she escaped accountability and made him feel guilty for having legitimate concerns. Every question becomes, "You don't trust me," or "I can't believe you'd accuse me of this." She frames your need for clarity as a character flaw on your part. This is emotional manipulation designed to condition you not to ask questions. If asking makes you the bad guy, you'll stop asking. And that's exactly what she wants. Notice the historical deflection, too. When you ask about her current behavior, she brings up your past. "You did this thing 2 years ago and I forgave you." This serves two purposes. It changes the subject and makes you defensive. She's not answering your question. She's redirecting to something completely irrelevant to avoid accountability. Then there's the guilt trip reversal. Your simple question somehow becomes about all the ways you failed her. "I worked so hard for this relationship, and this is the thanks I get? You questioning me?" She makes you feel so guilty for asking that you end up apologizing for having concerns. If you find yourself regularly apologizing for asking reasonable questions, you're being manipulated. Jake learned this the hard way. He noticed his girlfriend had been coming home later than usual from work events. When he casually asked, "How was the event? Who was there?" she exploded. "Why do you need to know who was there? Are you tracking me now? I can't believe you're being so controlling." He immediately backed off and apologized. This happened 3 more times with different questions. Each time she escalated to tears or rage. Jake started not asking anything because he didn't want to deal with her reactions. 6 months later, he discovered she'd been having an affair. The overreactions weren't about his questions. They were about preventing him from getting information that would expose her lies. So don't back down from reasonable questions. If you ask something straightforward and she explodes, that reaction itself is information. Say calmly, "I asked a simple question. Your reaction seems disproportionate. Why?" Refuse to be redirected. When she deflects to your past or other topics, bring it back. We can discuss that separately, but right now I need an answer to my question.
Name the pattern. I've noticed that every time I ask you something, you get extremely upset instead of just answering. Why is that? Don't apologize for having concerns. If your gut told you to ask the question, that instinct came from somewhere. And recognize emotional manipulation for what it is. If you're consistently made to feel like the bad guy for asking basic questions, you're not in a relationship built on honesty, you're in one built on control. Sign 3. Her phone and social media behavior has become secretive and protective. Now let's talk about one of the most reliable indicators that something's being hidden: the phone. When someone has nothing to hide, their phone is just a phone. It sits around, you can glance at it, there's no panic when notifications come through. But when someone is lying, their phone becomes a protected vault containing evidence of that lie. Watch for sudden changes in phone behavior. The phone never leaves her side anymore. Bathroom trips, getting water, quick runs to the car, the phone goes everywhere with her. It's always face down now, always on silent, always angled away from you. This isn't about phone addiction. This is about preventing you from seeing notifications or content in real time. Pay attention to what happens when notifications come through while you're nearby. You can see her visible stress response. Her body tenses. She immediately checks it. Or when you walk into the room while she's on her phone, she switches apps instantly or locks the screen. You're not even trying to look, but her panic is obvious. This is subconscious protection behavior. She's hyper-aware of your proximity to her digital life because that digital life contains evidence she needs to hide. Then there are the new passwords and privacy boundaries. Her phone suddenly has a password when it didn't before, or she changed the password without mentioning it. She starts talking about privacy and boundaries in ways she never did before. She's using legitimate relationship language to justify secretive behavior. Here's what you need to watch for. These boundaries only apply to you accessing her devices, but she still expects casual access to yours. Privacy should be mutual, not one-sided. If it's really about respecting boundaries, why don't your boundaries get the same respect? Look at her social media too. It's become carefully curated. Certain photos don't include you anymore when they used to. She's untagged herself from posts you're in together. Her relationship status mysteriously became private. She's posting content, but you're conspicuously absent from it, as if you don't exist. When someone is creating the appearance of being single or available on social media while in a relationship, they're maintaining that image for someone specific. And notice the message deletion pattern. She deletes text conversations, Instagram DMs, entire message threads. When you ask why, she says she likes to keep her phone clean or doesn't like clutter. But people don't delete innocent conversations. They delete conversations they don't want discovered. David's girlfriend used to leave her phone lying around. They'd look at photos together, she'd hand him her phone to show him something without hesitation, then suddenly everything changed. Her phone was always with her, it had a new password she didn't share. When he asked to see a photo she'd mentioned, she said she'd show him later and got defensive about him wanting to go through her phone. When he pointed out this was a change in behavior, she accused him of being controlling. Eventually, he discovered she'd been having an emotional affair with a coworker, months of texts and calls she'd been hiding. The phone protection wasn't about privacy, it was about concealing evidence. The neuroscience here, when humans are hiding something, their stress response activates in the presence of evidence. The phone contains that evidence, so her nervous system treats it as a threat requiring protection. This hypervigilance is nearly impossible to fake. Studies on infidelity consistently show that secretive phone behavior is one of the strongest predictors of cheating. So note the change, not the behavior itself. Everyone has different comfort levels with phone privacy, but a dramatic change in behavior is the red flag. If she used to be open and suddenly isn't, something changed. Test the consistency. Does she protect her laptop, iPad, and smartwatch with the same intensity? If it's just about privacy, the behavior would be consistent across devices. Don't ask to see her phone directly. This lets her delete evidence first and makes you look paranoid. Instead, observe the pattern. Have a direct conversation. I've noticed your phone behavior has changed dramatically. You used to be relaxed about it, now you're extremely protective. What changed? Watch her response. Does she answer honestly or deflect? Trust the pattern, not the explanation. If every instinct says something's being hidden and the protective behavior is extreme, your instinct is probably right. Her phone contains information she doesn't want you to see, and that itself is your answer. Before we get to sign number 4, if these patterns are starting to sound familiar and you're realizing your gut's been right all along, hit that subscribe button. We break down the psychology behind relationships so you can see manipulation clearly and make decisions from knowledge, not hope. All right, let's keep going. Sign number 4. She creates distance and picks fights before or after suspicious behavior. This sign is subtle but incredibly revealing once you know what to look for. Liars often create emotional distance around the times they're being dishonest. This serves two purposes. It gives them psychological space to compartmentalize their deception, and it provides cover for suspicious behavior. Watch for the pre-event fight pattern. Before she goes somewhere without you, girls' night, work event, trip with friends, she picks a fight. And the fight seems to come out of nowhere, often about something completely trivial. You didn't text back fast enough, you made plans without checking first, you forgot to do something minor around the house. Here's what's really happening. By creating conflict, she accomplishes two things. First, she feels less guilty about what she's about to do because you're the bad guy right now. Second, she prevents you from questioning her plans because you're fighting, not asking questions. Strategic conflict is a smokescreen around suspicious activity. Then there's the post-absence coldness. She comes back from somewhere and is emotionally distant, irritable, or disconnected. You'd expect her to be in a good mood after seeing friends or having fun, but instead she's withdrawn or picking fights. One guy told me every time his girlfriend came back from girls' night, she'd be weird with him for the next 2 days. Distant, snappy, finding reasons to be irritated. It didn't make sense until he realized the distance was guilt. She was emotionally compartmentalizing what she'd been doing. Normal people come back from fun events energized and connected. Liars come back needing emotional distance to manage their guilt. Watch for guilt projection, too. She starts accusing you of things she's actually doing. Being unfaithful, lying, being secretive. This projection is psychological. She's so consumed by her own deception that she sees it everywhere. Cheaters often become suspicious and jealous because they know how easy it is to lie. They're doing it, so surely you could be too. Sometimes she'll manufacture crises to justify her behavior. She creates drama or problems in the relationship, then uses those problems as justification for why she's been distant, secretive, or behaving differently. We've been fighting so much lately. Fights she has been starting becomes her excuse for pulling away or seeking comfort elsewhere. She's retroactively building a narrative that makes her behavior seem like a reasonable response to relationship problems she manufactured. Notice the intimacy withdrawal, too. Days or even a week before she's supposed to go somewhere without you, she becomes less intimate, emotionally and physically. She's creating distance so she feels less conflicted about what she's planning to do. If you can map her emotional availability to her schedule of being away from you, that pattern reveals intentional distancing. Tyler saw this clearly. Every time his girlfriend had plans with her work friends, they'd have a fight the day before. She'd get upset about something small, and the fights always escalated to where she'd leave angry or they'd sleep separately. Then she would go to her work event.
Afterward, she'd be cold for a couple days. This cycle repeated monthly. When he finally discovered she'd been having an emotional affair with a coworker, months of texts and calls she'd been hiding, the phone protection wasn't about privacy, it was about concealing evidence. The neuroscience here, this behavior reflects cognitive dissonance management. When someone's actions conflict with their self-image, they reduce the psychological discomfort by creating justifications. Starting fights makes her feel less guilty because now you're the bad guy who deserves to be lied to. The post-deception distance is emotional leakage. She can't immediately return to normal intimacy because she's processing guilt, fear of being caught, or conflict about what she's done.
So, track the pattern. Note when fights happen relative to when she has plans without you. If conflicts reliably occur before her nights out or trips, that's not coincidence. Pay attention to post-event mood. How does she act when she comes back? If she's consistently distant or irritable after being away, something about those events is creating emotional conflict in her. Address projection directly. Why the sudden suspicion? I haven't changed my behavior. What's changed for you? Don't engage with manufactured fights. If she's picking fights over nothing, don't take the bait. Say calmly, this feels like you're looking for conflict. What's really going on? Look at the big picture. One fight before one event might be coincidence. A pattern of emotional distance around her suspicious activities is evidence of something deeper. And if you're seeing this pattern in your relationship, you need to check out our video on the 5 signs she's cheating that men always miss. Links in the description. It'll help you understand the subtle clues most men overlook. Catch them early, and you'll know the truth before it destroys your peace, your trust, and your time. But first, sign number 5, because this one reveals premeditated deception. Sign 5. She has answers prepared too quickly, and her explanations are too perfect. This final sign is one of the most reliable indicators of calculated deception. When someone is caught off guard by a legitimate question about genuine events, there's a natural pause while they recall details. When someone has been lying and preparing for your questions, the answers come immediately, too immediately. The explanations are too polished, too detailed, too perfect. Watch for the instant, detailed response. You ask about something potentially suspicious, and her answer comes out immediately. No pause, no thinking, just rapid-fire explanation. And the response has more detail than you asked for, almost like she anticipated the question. People recalling real events pause briefly to access memory. Liars reciting prepared stories have no such delay because they've rehearsed. The speed and polish of her response indicates she's been thinking about what to say when you asked, which means she knew the situation looked suspicious. Notice when her explanation answers questions you haven't asked yet. You ask a simple question, "Where were you?" and you get a full story, covering who, what, when, where, why, including defensive explanations for potential concerns you didn't even raise. One guy asked his girlfriend why she was late getting home. Her immediate response was a 5-minute explanation covering traffic, a call from her mom, stopping to get gas, and why her phone was dead so she couldn't text. He'd only asked one question, but she provided a complete alibi. She wasn't responding to what he asked. She was responding to what she anticipated he'd question. Watch for the airtight alibi that can't be verified. Her explanation is detailed and sounds plausible, but when you think about it, there's no way to verify any of it. The details she provides are with people you can't contact, in places with no evidence, or at times with no corroboration. A clever liar creates stories that sound believable, but can't be checked. I was with Sarah, who moved to another state. We went to that new bar that you've never been to and have no way to verify. Here's another tell. Consistency that's too consistent. When people recall true events multiple times, they remember different aspects on different retellings. One time they mention the weather, another time the conversation topic. That's how natural memory works. But when people recite rehearsed lies, the story is identical every time. Same details, same order, like a memorized script. Natural memory is messy and emphasizes different elements based on context. Rehearsed lies are clean and repetitive. And pay attention to over-justification for normal behavior. She provides elaborate explanations for things that wouldn't normally require explanation. I'm going to Target becomes a detailed itinerary of exactly what she needs to buy, which Target she's going to, why that one instead of the closer one, and when she'll be back. Liars over-explain because they're trying to appear trustworthy. Honest people don't feel the need to justify ordinary activities. Chris experienced this. He asked his girlfriend a simple question, "How was your night?" They'd been texting earlier and she'd mentioned going to a friend's place. Her response was immediate and excessive. "It was good. I got there around 7, we ordered Thai food from that place on Main Street, watched 2 episodes of that show I told you about, talked about work drama, her bosses being terrible, and then I left around 11 because I was tired. Traffic was light coming home." He'd only asked one question, but she'd given him a complete timeline without being asked for any of it. Later, when his friend casually mentioned that night, the details were different. The over-prepared answer was a red flag. She'd been ready with an alibi because she knew what she had actually been doing wouldn't sound good. Here's the psychology. Liars engage in over-controlled behavior. They prepare too much because they're afraid of being caught. The immediate, detailed response reveals premeditation. She's been anticipating your questions, which means she knows her behavior looks questionable. People telling the truth don't feel the need to justify themselves excessively because they're not trying to convince you of anything, they're just stating facts. Liars are always selling you on their story, which requires embellishment and over-explanation. So, notice the speed of her response. When you ask about something potentially suspicious, is there a natural pause while she thinks, or does the answer come out immediately and fully formed? Ask the same question later in a different way. "You mentioned you were at Sarah's last Tuesday. What'd you guys end up doing?" If she gives a nearly identical response to before, she's reciting, not recalling. Pay attention to unnecessary detail. When simple questions get elaborate answers, ask yourself why she feels the need to justify so thoroughly. Test the verifiable parts. If her explanation includes details that can be checked, times, places, people, quietly verify what you can. If those details don't match, you know the rest is likely fabricated too. Trust the feeling of too perfect. If an explanation feels rehearsed or overly polished, that's because it probably is. Real life is messy. Real explanations have pauses, corrections, and natural variation. Rehearsed lies are clean, detailed, and suspiciously perfect. Let's quickly recap. Sign 1, her story changes in small but significant ways every time she tells it. Inconsistencies reveal she's constructing a narrative, not recalling events. Sign 2, she overreacts to simple questions and turns them into attacks on her character, weaponizing your trust to avoid accountability. Sign 3, her phone and social media behavior has become secretive and protective. Sudden changes in digital privacy indicate something new to hide. Sign 4, she creates distance and picks fights before or after suspicious behavior, manufacturing conflict to justify her actions and mask guilt. And sign 5, she has answers prepared too quickly and her explanations are too perfect. Over-prepared responses reveal premeditated deception. Here's what you need to understand. Your gut brought you to this video for a reason. You're not being paranoid, you're not being controlling, you're paying attention to patterns that don't add up. And the fact that you're second-guessing yourself, wondering if you're crazy for noticing these things, that might be because she's been making you feel that way every time you've raised concerns. Stop ignoring what you see. Stop accepting explanations that require you to doubt your own perception. Trust isn't about blindly believing everything someone tells you. Trust is something that should be earned through consistent, honest behavior. When someone's words don't match their actions, when their stories don't hold up under basic scrutiny, when simple questions trigger defensive explosions, those aren't signs of your trust issues. Those are signs you're being lied to. You're not wrong for noticing. You're just finally seeing clearly. If this video confirmed what your gut's been telling you, subscribe to this channel. We break down the psychology behind relationships so you can see manipulation clearly and make decisions from knowledge, not hope. Drop a comment with the sign that finally made it click. You don't have to share your whole story, but which pattern did you recognize? Sometimes naming it helps you stop ignoring it. And in the next video, we're covering exactly 5 signs she's cheating that men always miss. Because she won't tell you she's cheating, but these 5 hidden signs will. Miss them, and you'll be the last to know.
You deserve someone whose stories stay consistent, who answers your questions without making you feel guilty for asking, and who doesn't require you to ignore your instincts to maintain the relationship. If you're having to work that hard to believe her, maybe it's time to believe yourself instead.